and welcome back to my channel. I'm Shay and this is my 24-week pregnancy update. So welcome back. We're cold as usual. I feel like I talk about this every single video. So I have my hat on and the couch is covered in blankets and Prim is curled up next to me as usual as well. Can you say hi to camera? Yeah. And we are going to share, well, I'm going to share about what pregnancy has been like for the last couple weeks. So I am really, like, a general overview, I guess, has just been that I'm really enjoying pregnancy right now. And, like, I was thinking about birth the other day and I actually had this little twinge of sadness just thinking about, like, not having the baby inside anymore and not being able to feel baby moving from the inside and everything. It's just weird, like you have these mixed emotions about I'm so excited about the birth because I'm so excited to meet baby, but then at the same time you're like, oh, but I won't be pregnant anymore. I didn't expect to feel that way. I think particularly in the first trimester I was like, get me to the end of this. I'm so tired and nauseous and it's so worth it, but I can't do 9 months of this, which, you know, I was fairly sure that that would come to an end and it was just a season. But I mean, you never know. Some people have really rough pregnancies. I just wasn't sure how it was going to go. But second trimester so far has just been really, really a blessing and a joy to experience. And I'm really enjoying it and I'm really, really thankful for that. So my blind parenting tip of the week. You're looking so sad. Are you okay? She's yawning. You tired? So my blind parenting tip of the week is to do with travel. So I have two thoughts. One is that as a blind parent, I think it's really important to have a carrier, and it's up to you whether you decide to use a carrier more often than a buggy. I think I probably will use a carrier like 90% of the time. We'll see how it goes, but that's my instinct, because a carrier allows you to have both hands free, which is great because as a blind person, a lot of the time, at least if you're out and about, you're gonna have a cane in one hand or a dog harness in one hand. So if you're using a buggy, that takes both of your hands away. So it's nice to at least have one hand free when you're traveling, and the carrier gives you that option. It keeps the baby really close to you, and that's nice, particularly where we live because it's just kind of cold here. The baby gets to share your body heat, so if it's chilly, that's kind of a nice thing. But also I think it's nice for a blind parent in particular because they're so easy to keep tabs on because they're right there, like on your chest or on your back, and you can hear them really well and they're just really close to you. And so the tricky thing about carriers is there are so many options. I'll try to link maybe some videos or something that can give some information about different types of carriers, because they're like really structured, formed ones with buckles, there are wraps, there are kind of half formed ones with some buckles and partially a wrap, there are slings, like there's just so many options that I'm not to the point where I really understand like what would be the best for me, to be honest. So I can't provide that much guidance on that, but I would definitely say try to get a wrap and a more structured one. I would say have a couple of different varieties because you never know which one's going to be best for you. And I think particularly for me, I'm going to be using a carrier from very early on because I have to take care of Prim and I'm going to need both hands for that. So I want to have a few on hand so that I always have some kind of option that will work for me. I've also heard that some carriers are easier to use independently than others. Some carriers, it's a lot easier if you have help to put the baby in the carrier, and so they might not be the best ones to have if you're like living alone or if your spouse is working during the day or whatever. So all things to keep in mind. The other thought on travel is I was doing some research on buggies and a lot of people were saying wagons are just so much easier, and so I just wanted to throw that out there in case you haven't thought about that, because I looked into it but I really thought wagons would be a lot more bulky and hard to store, and since we have a pretty small living space I didn't think it would work for us. But I have heard that there are models available that are pretty actually collapsible, so it might be an option for you. I also know, just from the limited research that I did, that there are wagons that are usable with newborn car seats, so you can even use them from a really young age. So definitely something to look into if you're just thinking about how you're gonna go about the whole travel thing. Moving on to symptoms, I have had a really pretty easy time of it recently. I've been kind of sore just like in my joints. Sometimes I get soreness in my fingers, my hips, that kind of thing. I have a tendency to wake up with a little bit of soreness in my back or my hips, and I'm always like flipping over from side to side. I think I said that in the last video. But yeah, it hasn't been too bad. I think I just need to watch my posture. I'm trying to do a little bit more just like ab exercise, safe ab exercise, to try to help with my back, and also just watch my posture and try not to be slouching because I think that can be damaging as well. The other thing I forgot to mention last time is that I experienced Braxton Hicks for the first time, I think. And I think it was around 19 weeks. And I was really scared when it happened because I didn't really know what it was. Like, I was just like, what is this sensation? We were in the grocery. I think I hadn't drunk very much water that day, and they say that it can be when you're dehydrated. So that may have been why it happened. But I was so alarmed. I was like, oh goodness, what's going on? Like, is baby okay? And it was just a weird sensation. It wasn't painful, but it was just this sort of tightening in my belly, and I was like, what is going on? But did a little research, found out that apparently you can have Braxton Hicks anywhere between, I think it was like 14 weeks and the end of pregnancy. So I was really surprised to hear that. I did not know that. For some reason I thought Braxton Hicks were only things that you experienced in like the third trimester, but apparently not. So there's that. I feel like the last couple of weeks I've been experiencing some tiredness, which is strange, but I also know that my Pregnancy Plus app said that babies usually go through kind of a growth spurt between 23 and 27 weeks. And so I'm kind of figuring my low energy could be from just the fact that she's growing a lot. And I guess the last thing is just that I'm starting to feel a little bit more inhibited, like in terms of my movements. I went to get something out of a cupboard the other day and I like couldn't reach it because my belly just like pushes me out from the counter just enough that I like, even standing on tiptoe, was like, I can't get it. It's so funny. And so there are little things like that that I'm noticing, and even just like getting up is harder, rolling over is starting to be a little bit harder. Just funny things. And like I find that I'm randomly sore sometimes, like muscularly, from walks and things. I'm like, this is sad. Like I clearly am not in the shape I need to be in, which probably a lot of us aren't because it's COVID times and a lot of us are not doing the exercise we used to. But yeah, I have noticed those things. I think that's pretty much it for symptoms though, which is great. So in terms of things that I've been considering recently, definitely been thinking a lot about organizing because our space just doesn't lend itself to a really straightforward way of storing everything that we need to store. But it's fun. I've been able to get creative with it. I showed you a few weeks ago, I think, some of the dividers that I made for baskets. And so I have continued to make those, and I've improved in my technique, I think. So that's been fun. I've enjoyed that, and started to organize things by size because I just want to, whenever a baby's born, I want to be able to just be like, okay, this is definitely something that's going to fit her, rather than be searching and be like, this looks too big, this looks too small, I don't know. So I'm just trying to get those things organized. I cannot believe we're 16 weeks away from the due date. Like, that just blows my mind. And I have these conflicting emotions because I think I said this, that I've just really been enjoying pregnancy recently. And so, like, to think about it not being a thing anymore kind of makes me a little sad. But then I'm also so excited about meeting the baby and getting to know the baby. And I'm also excited about experiencing birth. I know that sounds weird, but I think it's just because it's like one of these things that so many women have experienced over the last several thousand years. And it sort of feels like not a rite of passage, because obviously not everyone experienced it, but just an interesting experience that I look forward to sharing in, I guess, as a woman. And obviously just the idea of meeting the baby and seeing the baby with my husband, like, that all is just so exciting. And I know I'm just gonna melt whenever I see him with baby. It's just gonna be such an exciting and precious moment, and I'm really looking forward to that. The other thing I've been thinking about is just prepping meals. We don't have a lot of freezer space. So we do have a freezer, but it's not very big. So I'm just sort of thinking about how I want to organize food for the first couple of weeks, because it would be so great to have something prepped, but I'm just not really sure how we're going to do that with so little space. So I'm giving that some thought. I really want to have a lot of snacks on hand, because whenever I get stressed, I just tend to be a person that, like, doesn't eat when I'm stressed, and I'm not interested in preparing food when I'm stressed. So for the first several weeks, I just want to make sure I have lots and lots of easy snacks on hand, so that I can always be just munching on fresh, healthy things. So I'm trying to put together lists of foods that I'd like to have on hand, and also just think about how am I going to make meals, what kind of meals could I pre-make. And I don't know, I'm considering even asking maybe family members or something, if they have freezer space, if we could prep some meals and then maybe freeze them and keep them at a friend or family member's house. That's something that's occurred to me. I'm not really sure what we're going to do yet, but it's just something that's occurred to me that I feel like I need to give some more thought. I guess 2 more things in terms of things that I've been considering. Social support. I just don't know what that's going to look like, because we don't know what the COVID situation is going to be like. So I don't feel like we can sort of depend on having a lot of help from people, which is fine. I'm like kind of more in an independent spirit anyway, so like that's okay. But I also want to make sure that, particularly for our mental health, we have people to lean on, just like emotionally. So just been considering kind of our support system and who should we plan to reach out to, and particularly for my husband, because I think guys sometimes aren't naturally prone to reach out when they need that support. And so I've just been thinking about that with him and his friends, and just encouraging him to have people in mind that he can chat to if he feels like he needs to whenever a baby is born. And the last thing is just intimacy between my husband and I. I won't go into detail with that, but I think it's just such a tumultuous time, and like I know to some extent it's going to be on the back burner because we're having a newborn. But in terms of just maintaining our emotional intimacy and being able to support each other and be each other's cheerleaders rather than tearing each other down during the whole process. Because I think it can be really easy, particularly when you're really tired, to just sort of act without thinking. And so we've both just been thinking about, okay, how can we prepare ourselves for this in a way, and just prepare our relationship even for this, so that we can communicate throughout the whole process smoothly and be able to help each other and get through it together rather than fall apart in the midst of it. I mean, that said, I'm sure we will fall apart from time to time anyway. Do you know what I mean? There's only so much you can do. But I think with the Lord's help and with his preparation in our hearts throughout this time period, I think we will have a more positive experience than we might if we didn't prepare. So I guess that's been like a lot of prayer, a lot of just like searching our own hearts, a lot of asking the Lord to prepare us, a lot of reading scripture, also talking to each other about our fears, the things that we're nervous about and things that we think might come up as an issue, and then trying to just come up with some solutions for how we could get around those things. For example, one thing we've talked about is just that my husband in particular really struggles with lack of sleep, and so I was saying to him, since he's going to need to go back to work and I'm planning to stay home with the baby, I am happy to try to find rest periods throughout the day and just take on the night feedings, night changes, any of that sort of thing. So we're just thinking about, okay, how could he potentially sleep through the night, even with a baby crying a little bit from time to time, so that he can get good rest, and then that way he's at least refreshed for the morning, he can go to work, he can be okay for the day, and then if I need a break in the evening or something, he's going to be more able to do something like that, rather than like if we're both just exhausted and can't think straight. I think it'll be better if we sort of take shifts. I'll take the night shift, he can take the day shift. Well, part of the day shift anyway. So that's one example of things we've been talking about. And then just a little bit of news. Hubby felt baby for the first time last week. So that was so exciting. I'm actually in week 25 now. So I mean, at the end of week 24, he felt baby move for the first time. And the funny part was that it was during an Eddie Van Halen solo. And so we joked that baby is a big guitar fan, so maybe that will be baby's instrument of choice. We'll see. In terms of prayers and praise, I guess just praise for growth, for continued health. The Lord's hand has definitely been at work there, and we're so thankful. Thankful for friends as well, people helping prepare us for parenthood. It's been really helpful. And just like God's word, my husband and I have been spending a lot of time lately, at least more than usual, in prayer and reading God's word, and that's been such a comfort. And I don't even want to say comfort, it's not like we're going through anything right now, but just it's been so good to rely on him and think on him more often, and just recognize that he is the one sustaining us through this whole pregnancy and through our journey to parenthood. And so yeah, we're really grateful for that. And I'd say like our prayer is really just for praying for the first 6 weeks that we have a baby, because I hear that like the first 6 to 8 weeks are the hardest, and yeah, so that's kind of been our main prayer. We acquired a few things this week, and I would love to show all of them, but I will just show 2 things. One is just an example of some clothes that we got. A sweet friend sent a bunch of clothing for us to sort through, and I am just obsessed with the little girl stuff. Oh my goodness, there's this little dress. It is little black and white polka dot, I think, if I remember correctly, and it's sort of a see-through material with like a satiny thing under it, and it's got this little ruffle around the waist. I just think it is so sweet and would be such a nice little church dress or something if we ever go back to church. I'm sure we will eventually. So the other thing we acquired is a car seat. So this is a Maxi Cozy car seat. I think it's meant to work from 1 to 12 months, although my friend said that it only worked for her until 9, so we'll see how big baby is. I currently have my little baby llama in there to demonstrate. So little baby llama is all buckled. You have these just little 2 things, and you just plug it into the little thing with the button, and baby's all secure. Currently has the newborn insert, which is just this little sort of like a foam and fabric insert. My friend said she didn't use it, so we'll see if we do. But yeah, I'm excited that we got this. We got this from a friend, so thank you for that. And thank you to our friend that gave us the clothes as well. So excited about that, and I'm really having fun sorting through it all. And that's about it for this week. So thanks for joining me. Here's your bump shot for the week. Let's see if I can. There you go. There's the bump. Baby is getting bigger. So see you next time. Bye.